So with the Warthunder anniversary sales pretty much coming up in the next couple of weeks for Warthunder, it's time to actually go through some of the premiums within Warthunder again. So in this video, we're going to be going through the CV90-105, which is a very interesting vehicle because it's the only vehicle in Warthunder that I know of right now, unless you count the Italian M60, where the vehicle itself as the premium has completely been changed from what it was in the past. So this vehicle used to be the CV90-105 TML, but now it has been changed to the XC8, which is a very interesting thing because it changed a lot about this vehicle, which pretty much makes it better, and it is a pretty good vehicle at the battle rating of 10.0. So before we start this video, let's talk about today's sponsor, which is me. So if you didn't know, I've did a lot of these videos. There's even a playlist about it where you can go find, different premiums within the game, especially for the anniversary sale coming up. It's a very, very good resource to actually go figure out different premiums and what they do, what they're good at, what they're bad at, and, kind of make your informed decision on actually purchasing some of these premiums, because some of them, even though they're going to be discounted, are still, money coming out of your pocket. And I definitely think that you should be informed of what you're actually buying. Yeah, just make sure the premiums that you're getting are, good for you and, what you want to play and what you enjoy in Warthunder, because at the end of the day, Warthunder is about fun. If you're not having fun whenever it comes to grinding the even premium vehicles within the game, then why even play the game in general? So yeah, hopefully all of you enjoyed this video, and let's get on to the good old CV90-105. So the first thing we're going to talk about on the CV90-105 is its ability to research things, because whenever you think about it in Warthunder, majority of the time people buy premiums because they want to research the tech tree that they currently want to play. So for Sweden, the CV90-105 can pretty much research everything. Even if rank 8 comes within the near future, it will be able to research it because it is a rank 7 within Warthunder. So if you didn't know, that any vehicle, especially whenever it comes to premiums, will be able to research everything below them, and then also they'll be able to research one above them, which makes it a really good thing to actually know of what you're researching within the game. But with the CV90-105, no matter what you're researching, you will be able to get full RP into the vehicle that you're researching. The next thing to note about the CV90-105 is that it's a light tank, and it's also a battle rating of 10.0, which means that it's going to be seeing a ton of the other premiums within the game, because a bunch of the premiums right now from other nations are also 10.0. Some of them are 10.3, like the Abrams for America, and as well as the Leopard 2 for Germany, but majority of the stuff is going to be around that 9.7 to 10.0 battle rating, which means that if you want to be very combat effective in the CV90-105, is going and learning the weak spots of some of these vehicles within the tech trees of other nations, because those will be the most common vehicles that you see at this battle rating. And whenever we talk about the gun of this thing, I'll talk about it more in detail. But overall, this thing is going to be, seeing a lot of the premiums from other nations. And whenever it comes to that, some of them are very easy to take out, but some of them can be a little bit of a struggle, especially if you see a Leopard 2 or you see stuff like the M1 KVT, which is kind of a little interesting tank whenever it comes to Warthunder. So the next thing we're going to be talking about on the CV90-105 is the mobility of this thing. So the mobility of the CV90-105 is very good. I think it's probably one of the best premiums whenever it comes to mobility wise. The thing about it is that whenever we talk about mobility, the tank itself is a little bit odd. And the reason that's odd for me is because the turret is a little bit back from where you would see it on like a normal tank. And because of that, the front of the tank is a little bit longer. So whenever you're trying to poke in areas, sometimes your front of your tank will actually poke out before your turret will, or you'll be able to get a shot on somebody. And since the engine of the vehicle itself is in the front, you're going to get engined, and most of the time you just get your driver shot out. So for the mobility of this thing, sometimes it's better to actually play this thing backwards. And whenever you play it backwards, you may not have a ton of reverse speed, but you will be able to get less of your tank shown to the enemy, which is always a wonderful thing. And I'll kind of show you how that kind of works within, Warthunder itself. The next thing to talk about on the CV90-105 is the armor layout. So the armor of this thing is pretty poor. Like auto cannons are going to just delete you. APFSDS might overpin. Sometimes if you're facing vehicles which have APHE, which are kind of rare just battle rating, the majority of the stuff you're going to see is Heat FS as well APFSDS. But APHE sometimes will not fuse on this tank, just depending on how big it is. One of the biggest tanks that you'll probably see at this battle rating now, especially since it got moved up to 9.0, is going to be the Object 279. And with that vehicle, it should overpin you majority of the time, but because of how that tank normally goes, if it overpins you, you'll just get MG'd out with its little 14mm, which is always an interesting thing to note as well. Also, 50 cals, you can also just pretty much delete this thing from the side. If you're getting shot with 50 cals from like an Abrams or something, it is a little bit of a nuisance just because your armor is very, very poor. The other thing to note about this is that it does not have any sort of like protection from the air. It doesn't have any, MG on top. It does have a coax though, which makes it, you're able to at least shoot an MG. It's not like the British TTD, which doesn't have any MGs at all. but it is very lacking whenever it comes to being able to protect itself from the air, which many vehicles around this battle rating definitely have at least something to do, whenever it comes to the air. It's also got some pretty good smoke launchers whenever it comes to that. It does have it's able to shoot behind it in a way, which is kind of cool, and you're able to, get out of harm's way. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the gun of the CV90-105. So it's pretty much your normal 105 that you'll find on a majority of vehicles within Warthunder, but it does have some very cool quirks about it, which make it a really nice gun within the game. So it does have DM23 and also DM33. If you're wondering which round to take, just take your DM33, but it also has an ATGM, which makes it different compared to all of the other L7 type guns within the game, or the 105 guns, which is a tandem warhead ATGM, but majority of the time you don't really need to use it. I would just take, maybe like 2 or 3 rounds of it so you can shoot at helicopters, because once again, one of your big weaknesses of this tank is being targeted by aircraft, because there's really not much you can do with it. So DM33 is what I would take whenever it comes to this. You want to take maybe like 2 rounds of heat FS, just in case you need something to be overpressured, because heat, overpressure things. And then I'll take like 2 or 3 rounds of the ATGM. So you're able to, be able to shoot at helicopters or shoot at, stuff maybe that you can't hit and you need to like kind of curve around or something. But yeah, overall, this is what I take. So 19 rounds of DM33, 2 rounds of the Faleric ATGM, and then I'll take 2 rounds of the M1061, which is your heat FS. And the reason I take that is because of the tank itself. The tank is a walk-in ammo rack in the back. So your left side ammo rack, which will be highlighted now, is the one that you're kind of wanting to get rid of, because that is the one that is kind of controlled by, you being able to take out rounds. The one that's kind of on your right side is the one that will pretty much always be there. And then your ready rack will also always be there as well. Because one thing I kind of forgot to note, and a really good quirk about this thing, is that it's auto-loaded. So this thing does not get affected by your reloading skill. So even if you have very bad crew skills, you will still have a 5-second reload, which makes this thing a really competent tank whenever it comes to shooting at different targets. Especially like T-72 terms, you will be able to beat out the reload, the majority of the time be able to kill them whenever it comes to everything. So yeah, the M33 is really good. The round itself, though, is very interesting because it's a really good round, but it's still a round that you need to aim for weak spots with. So stuff like the Leopard 2, the Abrams, both of those vehicles, if you try to go for their cheeks, it can kind of mess up. And even on the T-72 terms, which is a vehicle theoretically you can just pin with DM33 on the hull, there's still some areas where DM33 will not pin. So you do need to be cognizant of that and make sure that you're actually still aiming for weak spots, because this is a round that's really good, but it's not a lull pin round. It's not just going to be able to nuke everything whenever you just shoot center mass at it. You still will have to aim for weak spots, and that's something that needs to be noted with this CV90-105. So finally, would I actually recommend getting this CV90-105? And kinda, I would say yes. The reason behind it is if you really want to grind out Sweden, I would say it's a definite yes. But for me at least, it's a vehicle that's still just a 105 light tank that we've seen many of times throughout different tech trees. If you want to know how this vehicle kind of plays, it kind of plays like an AGS from America, or it plays like the TEM from Germany. Like a bunch of these vehicles kind of just feel the same, even though there's very, different stuff about them. Like this thing having the ATGM, which I barely ever use, and then also having the autoloader, which also makes it pretty good. So yeah, overall, I would say it's a very interesting vehicle. Like it's good for what it is, but at the same time, it's still just a 105. So if you're trying to get it to have a unique playstyle of a vehicle, it's probably not going to be great. You'd probably have something, or you'd probably serve yourself better with playing stuff like the VDAR or something like that for Sweden if you want a unique experience. But if you want a decently good grinder, the CV90-105 is pretty good within Warthunder, and I highly recommend picking it up there in a cell if you want to grind out Sweden. So if everyone has a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in the next Warthunder video.